Hello, my name is Teacher Demasinir. I'm the principal at Sikamari Elementary School. And this is a story of our first year as fellows of the Cultures of Thinking Professional Development. The main focus for our first year was trying to create a collaborative Cultures of Thinking environment at Sikamari Elementary School. And the mindset that I was focusing on was for classrooms to be cultures of thinking for students. Schools must be cultures of thinking for teachers. In 2020, I was still a digital learning coach, and I was exposed to the mindsets and the cultures of thinking initiative through a micro course. In 2021, I was a first-year administrator at the Sikamari Elementary School, and the district was just emerging from the pandemic, and as a first-year administrator, it seemed it was a little overwhelming to think about joining a Cultures of Thinking fellowship at the time. But in 2022, together with Miss Patty and Miss Christina, who had connections with Mandela International School, we decided to join the fellowship. So some of the steps that we took this year towards creating collaborative culture at the Sikamari Elementary School is participating in a compelling purpose professional development. And the compelling purpose is really trying to figure out what our story is at a Sikamari Elementary School. What are the messages we're trying to send? What is it that we're trying to accomplish? What's our dream state? And then figuring out from there our what ifs. What if we tried this? Like, what would this look like? And really trying to create that sort of environment for dialogue and improvement to try and reach that ideal state of cultures of thinking. Here are some of the values that came to light during our discussions for our compelling purpose. And after we had to discuss those values, we started voting for our top 3 values to try and create a statement, which we're still in the process of doing currently. We're still in the process of creating currently. Another thing that we did this year was starting up peer classroom observations, and we created a Sikamari observation cycle note-taker form where teachers had to identify a cultural force that they were particularly comfortable with, or that they felt like they were pretty strong at in their classrooms. And then they could also identify specific things for their colleagues to observe. And then they also had to indicate whether they wanted feedback on that cultural force or not. Part of the reason I designed this form was to create more, again, of a collaborative culture, where teachers would feel comfortable analyzing each other's practices and coming into each other's classrooms and collaborating and being open to dialogue. The other reason was to got teachers more familiar with some of the vocabulary that's used in cultures of thinking. For example, a cultural force, like what does that mean? What are the cultural forces? We gave handouts to each of the teachers. So with a short description of the 8 forces, again, so they could become familiar with those ideas. And the idea was that in part of PLC, they would go observe, like for half an hour, they could go and observe classrooms during the week, and then for the other half hour of their PLC work, they would then come together with their partner or partners and discuss reflection questions. What do I want to remember and try from my peer observation? In what ways has a lesson that you've observed impacted your thinking and your future classroom practices? And what are the implications or the next steps? Then I changed this form somewhat because it was with teachers not quite being familiar with the cultural forces and trying to figure out like what they were strong at. I changed that slightly into the Sikamari observation cycle note-taker form version 2, where the teacher that went into the classroom could say, these are the cultural forces that I observed, and then providing some comments about that cultural force. In that way too, they were able to visit whichever classroom they wanted to observe forces that maybe they weren't expecting. It just felt like a little bit less predetermined and more open to dialogue, and more give the teachers more agency to visit whatever classroom they felt they would like to learn from or take ideas from. Another thing we did as a school was we developed peer professional development at staff meetings. So each staff meeting I divided into two parts. One part where a staff member could sign up for professional development, provide professional development, something like a best practice that they used in their classrooms. They wanted to share with their peers, and then the other part of the staff meeting would still be logistical or at least principle driven. Here's an example of the professional peer development sign-up sheet. And so you can see there was a wide variety of things that teachers came up with to share with their peers. And again, this was designed to try and create a more collaborative culture among teachers. Last, I tried to experiment briefly with an inspiring quote. While I didn't get too far with that yet, but the idea is that teachers, staff members, and ultimately students and parents as well could share inspiring quotes, maybe quotes that they've heard in the classroom, maybe quotes that they've heard in the hallways or on the playgrounds, things that they've heard teachers say, things that they've heard students say, and have a place for that on the wall so that when we're walking across hallways, we can hear and read, see what the culture at CoT Madre Elementary School is. So I just had like one quote for a little while that really was aligned with responsive classroom, but then I didn't really have time to think it through and to really include other voices or to really explain it to staff. So this might be an initiative that I try to develop more next year. The Cultures of Thinking, year 2, Shaping the Story. Next year I will have to think about some of the essential school components that are already existing at CoT Madre. So the responsive classroom philosophy, which is a sort of it's more than just a classroom management system. It's kind of a school-wide culture management tool that I like to incorporate. And the other thing is arts integration. And then last, there is the compelling purpose professional development that we're wrapping up this year. So those are kind of the initiatives that I'm trying to merge with the Cultures of Thinking initiative. Here are the mindsets that tie in to these essential components. So number 1, again, for class must be cultures of thinking. For students, schools must be cultures of thinking for teachers. Students learn best when they feel known, valued, and respected by both the adults in the school and their peers. Mindset number 6, learning and thinking are as much a collective enterprise as they are an individual endeavor. Mindset number 8, questions drive thinking and learning. And mindset number 9, powerful learning both engages and empowers students. So thinking about these mindsets, there are some that really I feel would impact students, and that's mindset number 1, mindset number 4, and mindset number 9. And as you can see, I put in parentheses kind of how they would tie into the essential components that are already at a CoT Madre Elementary School, with COT being culture of thinking, RC being responsive classroom, and then there is also the performing arts integration. And then when I looked at these values and the ones that staff have voted for, the ones that have kind of the most dots near them, I further broke it down into like how these tie into the compelling purpose. So mindset number 1 would tie into the compelling purpose through teamwork and partnerships. And mindset number 4 would tie into the compelling purpose through self-regulation, caring for others. And mindset number 9 would kind of tie in with the love of learning. And all of this makes me think of the Vygotsky quote, "Children grow into the intellectual life of those around them." So if our staff and our school, all the adults in the school can model that intellectual life and what we are trying to see in our students, If we can do that for our staff and among our staff, like a collaborative culture, if we can be self-regulated learners who care and show kindness to one another and to our students, and if we can get excited about bringing in the performing arts and really creating engaging learning experiences and ourselves be engaged learners, then that's also the type of culture that we will get back. So this makes me think about the what if question. What if we tried it? What if we further ventured down this road? One thing that came up while I was doing my presentation at the last session of the Cultures of Thinking was that this presentation makes it seem like everything is really nicely tied in and really set on a certain path with a definite destination. But one of the comments that I got back was that it's more about the process and not as much about trying to get to a predetermined destination. So again, this is just kind of how I view things coming together in retrospect. But as we go through this actively, we are just enjoying the messiness of it and seeing where it will lead us. One thing that I'm excited about is trying to see how the performing arts integration can work, and know that performing arts or just arts integration has been an integral part of Project Zero initiatives. And this summer I might be going on to a conference to help me understand how to merge the cultures of thinking and the arts integration piece as we're going into next year. So as we're on this path, traveling, I'm hoping to continue to generate more ideas, and hoping to get more and more staff on board and exposed to these ideas, so that we can start really building and shaping our culture, and really providing or really being that reflection of what we want to see in our students.